Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome into Payoff Pitch. We are Action Network's MLB betting podcast. It is Friday, July 21st. Everyone's in action, 15-game slate. Brendan Glasheen joined by Anthony DeBundo and BJ Cunningham on this Friday morning. Payoff Pitch comes your way Monday, Tuesday, and Friday during the baseball season. Second half is well underway. We'll have some consistency here with the program for the remainder of the season. If you have not done so already, we haven't been really doing this. This is more so on me. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. We had the All-Star break, and now that we're back in full swing, you want your baseball content, we'll give it to you. But please, leave us a 5-star rating if you don't mind, and comments, questions, concerns about the podcast. So, with that being said, let's dive right in. I don't have much more to add after that. Shohei Ohtani, there's no news to report. If something does break, though, we will get to it. Full game, full slate. DeBundo, where might we be looking for a best bet? You have a lot of you said this to me before we hit record. There's a lot of pitchers on the mound today that are fans that you're fans of.
Near and dear to my heart, really. And Kyle Bradish is one of them. If you follow us in the app, BJ is giving me the L if you're not listening to this because he's anti. But look,
watching on our YouTube stream, there you go. Good visual.
Bradish is, he cashed our over alternate strikeout props ladder on Sunday against the Marlins, and it's really been an ongoing consistency trend for him where he's been one of the better pitchers in all of baseball in the last month and a half. And there's a few things that have kind of led to that. The first is his stuff plus. His slider and his curveball are both excellent breaking balls. The slider especially, 169 stuff plus on the slider, one of the best in the entire sport. And he's always had the good secondaries. The problem for him has been the fastball in the past because his fastball has traditionally gotten crushed, and that's why he's given up homers and struggled to get ahead in counts and use the excellent breaking pitches. But he's improved both the command and the stuff on that fastball to the point now where he's right around slightly below league average with the fastball. Now, all of that gives me some optimism for him in terms of what his ceiling is as a pitcher. The bat projections really don't like Bradish for the rest of the season, but I am a fan, and I've consistently been a fan. Like I said, allowing a 576 slug on the fastball, but the slider is dominant, the curveball excellent, allowing a 267 slug on the slider and a 159 slug on the curveball. So, we love the stuff. Going up against a Rays lineup that, quite frankly, has regressed back toward the projections. And early in the season, the Rays would have been projected to be a slightly above league average offense. They ran really hot for a couple months, started 30-9. Everybody was oohing and eyeing about Yandy Diaz and all these other breakouts that they had. But you've kind of seen this offense come back down to earth and play to, a slightly above league average offense, which is really what I think it is on paper and going forward for the rest of the season. On the other side, you have Zach Eflin, who has actually been unlucky in the sense that his defense, there's a stat outs above average on Baseball Savant. You can look at which pitchers have been benefited or hurt the most by their opposition defense. And I'm not talking just like errors because that wouldn't contribute toward ERA, but just getting to balls in the gaps and making plays, on tricky plays that maybe wouldn't go as an error. Eflin's actually in the bottom 10 amongst MLB starters, which has kind of been a problem for him in the past in Philadelphia and whatnot. But even despite that, having the best season of underlying metrics of his career, the strikeout rate has jumped to above league average for the first time. He's always been elite with his command, lowest xERA of his career. I buy everything about this profile from Eflin, and I love both of these pitchers. So I'm going to take the under. I also played some Bradish over 5.5 strikeouts. I think the market's just a little bit behind on him. I know he's only striking out about a batter per inning, less than that this season. But with the increase in stuff and the improved fastball, it just gives him a higher upside for strikeouts. I think he can project over a strikeout per inning, and thus at 5.5, minus 108 is out there. I like the over on him for strikeouts. So under 8, minus 110 for the total in the game. And then I think we're going to get a pitcher's duel. I like Bradish over 5.5 strikeouts, minus 108 is out there.
Okay, two best bets in the same game. Orioles, the first place Orioles, may I add, they're a game ahead. That double play last night was electric for them to close out the game, and they are still facing each other at the Trop. And for Bradish, Orioles have won 4 of his last 5 starts. And to your point about the total, DeBundo. I know you feel good about how these pitchers have trended. These are two of the better over teams. As you said, though, there's been regression with the Tampa Bay Rays lineup, and the Orioles, as we know, have been surging. BJ Cunningham, a best bet for us, please. Where might you be turning to?
I'm going to turn to Cincinnati. Diamondbacks and Reds are like over 10.5 runs at -110. Tommy Henry will be on the mound for the Diamondbacks. He is a soft tossing lefty, a pitch to contact type pitcher. His K per 9 rate is sitting at 6.4. That's one of the lowest among qualified starting pitchers in Major League Baseball. But his command really hasn't been that great. If you look at his walk per 9 rate, that's up at 3.4, which is really not that good. And that's not really an ideal combination to go up against this Reds lineup that does strike out at a pretty high rate against left-handers, but also hits the ball incredibly hard, being 11th in weighted on base average against lefties. Like I mentioned, Henry, his fastball only average is 91 miles per hour, and he's throwing that close to 50% of the time. Well, opposing hitters have a 405 expected weighted on base average against it, and the stuff plus on that pitch is just 72. Now, he's in the 90th percentile and above for average exit velocity allowed, but his barrel rate allowed is in the 45th percentile. So he's, when guys hit him, they're not hitting him that hard, but he's kind of struggling to keep the ball off the opponent's barrel. And the Reds this season against left-handed fastballs that are 92 miles per hour or slower, they have a 579 slugging percentage and a 403 weighted on base average. So they just absolutely obliterate soft tossing lefties. Ben Lively is going to be on the mound for the Reds. He's a decent negative regression candidate, 3.7 ERA, but his expected ERA is up at 4.78. He's someone who's been bouncing between the minors, the majors. He's even spent some time over in the KBO, and his xFIP for his career in the majors is 5.09. And so he's kind of around just where he is, which is a below average starting pitcher. He offers a fastball sinker slider combination that he throws around 80% of the time. His fastball is getting shelled, but his slider and his sinker both have an expected weighted on base average allowed under 300. But the stuff plus on his fastball and his sinker is both below 90, and his stuff plus overall is only 81. So it's pretty evident that he is just a below average major league starting pitcher that is a back end rotation type of guy. And the Diamondbacks, not only are they a top 10 offense against right-handed pitching, but more specifically against right-handed fastball, sinkers, and sliders, which are Lively's three main pitches, they have a 354 weighted on base average and a plus 44 run value. So I have 12.1 runs projected for this game. Obviously, since Cincinnati is one of the best ballparks in terms of a good hitting environment, the wind's going to be blowing out around 6 to 7 miles an hour right through that little pocket in the left side of the stadium. So could see some balls get in the air against these two below average starting pitchers. So like over 10.5 runs at -110.
Highest total on the slate today.
There's really not a huge difference in the park factor between Coors and Great American.
Right. Yep.
And it's kind of, people would think, oh, Coors is so different, but Great American has been playing ridiculously big, small this year, even smaller than usual. Home run park factor, #1 in the league. The Reds are interesting now because they have so much depth in their lineup that they have the opportunity to platoon more. So that makes them a little bit more versatile. They do still project better against righties, but they can stack some right-handed bats in that lineup. Like a Nick Senzel, who maybe doesn't play against right-handed starters, but will face against the lefties. So they have a few guys that they can kind of mix and match to, create better platoons, get, India in there and Spencer Steer. So they're interesting. I just want to mention Ellie De La Cruz, since I'm anti-Ellie and I've kind of taken this Undertaker approach with him. Anybody want to guess how many hits he has in 30 plate appearances since the All-Star break?
16.
2.
Oh, close.
2 for 28 with 12 strikeouts, 2 singles since the All-Star break, and he is down to a 763 OPS, which I think, I'm going to pull it up as we speak, I think that's league average at Cincinnati. So yeah, the Ellie De La Cruz regression has hit, and I think everybody needed to kind of pump the brakes on the rookie of the year stuff and whatnot. Yeah, he's actually 99 WRC plus now. So Ellie De La Cruz is a below average hitter and been a below average fielder by outs above average as well. So I think people, the highlights are cool, but let's pump the brakes on the stuff.
Another W for DeBundo.
Wow. I'm not taking my victory lap yet. He's going to be great. He's going to be great in a couple of years, but people need to cool their jets.
Sorry, 1 second.
Ellie De La Ground out, some are calling him.
Oh.
Not me, though.
So you don't see any value in seeing a turnaround and diving in on De La Cruz at plus 450 to win Rookie of the Year? Or
to be honest, I'm disappointed that I haven't been fading him day to day more, because I think that, when you have a person that's that hyped and that popular on social media and in the betting space, and everybody gets excited, it actually creates value against him in this case. And you could have made a lot of money betting under 1.5 bases on him the last month. He had he has the occasional game where it's like he's 4 for 4, he hit for the cycle, but day to day he hasn't been very good.
Okay. Reds have been a good over team for the majority of the season. They are the 4th highest clip to the over this year. They have been on the side of the under, though, in 8 of their last 9. So this seems to trend well against Arizona. Good team on the base paths, too, to get to that 10.5, to get over 10.5 runs. Let's move on to find out if we're going to fade the public. The game we are targeting today, Minnesota Twins, led by Joe Ryan on the mound. They take on the Chicago White Sox. White Sox were kind to us last weekend with some of their performance against the Atlanta Braves. 81% of the bets, 76% of the cash coming in on Joe Ryan and the Twins. I think it's about Joe Ryan, not just the Twins as a whole. Joe Ryan does carry a lot of that weight. Gents, how would we like to approach this game? Do we want to take a side and go to Chicago and fade the Twins? Or is there a way to possibly back Joe Ryan today, DeBundo? How's that Cy Young ticket looking?
Yeah.
You wanted me to do this, so I'm doing it.
Well, I gave him permission. Joe's done in terms of Cy Young. I think that the home run problem has kind of returned for Ryan, and so that's been one of the major issues for him in the last month or so. And the stuff is down. I mean, he's lost ride on the fastball, he's lost drop on the splitter, and so as a result, he's just a lot more hittable. He went from being a guy with 3 very, very good pitches to a guy with 1.5 very good pitches, depending on how you count that fastball and that splitter. And he's really paid the price for it. So I do have some concerns about Ryan, but I'm buying all of the buy signals on Lance Lynn. One of the more fascinating profiles that you're going to really see for a pitcher, somebody who has a career high strikeout rate. We talked about Lynn coming into the year. He lost some stuff off the fastball, and we were like, okay, what does that mean? Well, now his strikeout rate is 27.7%, which is a career high, and his swinging strike rate is also at a career high, over 14%. His zone contact rate, which is a percentage of, how much people swing on pitches in the zone are they missing, also a career high, top 5 in all of baseball. And yet he's paired all of that with a career high 6.07 ERA, which is quite frankly amazing and really hard to do because his projections, his xERA is down at 4.6. And I'd argue he's actually been better than that. If you look at what's more predictive in the course of a small season, like one season, strikeout minus walk rate or like barrel rate allowed, I would take the strikeout minus walk rate 10 times out of 10. So the fact that his career barrel rate is, 5.9, and now he's allowing, 10.6 this season. It's not quite double, but it's, 80% of double. That's a remarkable increase that I really don't think will last. And I think as, he continues to strike out this many hitters, I'm much more believing of that lasting. So I do like Lynn a lot here. I'm a little more skeptical of Ryan, but again, enough that I will play the under 8.5 in this game. I think it's about a half run too high. White Sox in their worst offensive split against the righty, still very, very much pertinent. And that could help Ryan maybe bounce back here. But again, I am a little concerned about Ryan and definitely not laying the juice. If I had to play a side, I would play the White Sox, but I did bet the under 8.5.
Would you play it at 8? Totals at 8 at BetMGM.
8. What's the number?
Minus 110.
There's still 8.5s out there. I think there were right before we started recording.
Okay, fair enough.
I would shop around and try to find the 8.5 if it's out there. If it's 8, I would probably pass on it.
Okay, BJ, White Sox are plus 130 on the money line with Lance Lynn pitching and with Joe Ryan pitching at home, minus 155 favorites. Are you with the people, or is there a different way you'd like to approach this?
Yeah, I've already bet the Twins first 5. Best price you can find out there right now is minus 145. I get the concerns are somewhat real for Joe Ryan, but Anthony kind of mentioned, the splits are really in favor here of the Twins, who are much better against righties than they are against lefties, and the White Sox are really, really bad against right-handed pitching. So, I had Ryan, if you're, obviously over the last few starts, he's been bad, but I have him projected at minus 179 for the first 5 innings. So I think it's a decent price. And, Lynn, like, I get it. He's a positive regression candidate and his profile is interesting, but he's still a 4.7 xERA pitcher. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, yes, he's trending maybe in the right direction, but the expected metrics still have him as a below average starting pitcher. So I do like the Twins for the first 5 at minus 145.
Yeah, I don't want to make it seem like I think Joe Ryan's just like bad now, but he, stuff plus last 30 days, league average, still going to be pretty good. He has good command, excellent command. Still striking guys out at a decent clip. So like, I don't think Ryan's like going to fall off a cliff. I just think like for me, like putting him up in that top tier, which is why I was like, this guy is pitching at a level he could win Cy Young. Mm-hmm. He's just like fallen out of that tier now for me to the point where I can't bet him here. But yeah, I do like the under. And I'm seeing it's 8 everywhere now, so I would pass at 8.
Are you betting any Lance Lynn alternate strikeout totals today?
I have not looked at his prop yet, but I'm imagining, given the matchup against Minnesota, that it's already very high. Anybody can just pull up the strikeout rate of the Twins and just bet against their team to strike out. So I have not looked at it yet, but
7.5. And the overs
will have to go in more.
Overs plus 112, unders juice to minus 142.
I will plug the Discord. I will do some work on that and get into our Action Network Discord, which you're able to join now for, DM me if you want a link to join that. But yeah, we'll be discussing K props. I know Sean Kerner is in there. There's a daily strikeout leader prop that he will be projecting out today. So we've been having some fun with the Discord, and it's fun to live sweat games when, Kerner's got a K prop and you're like going through the lineup permutations and you're like, okay, we're here in the lineup. Oh, we got, this guy to strike out, and Kerner is the best. So I'll have some thoughts on the props once we get more time to go through them later.
Discord Debundo. DD. I just came up with that. Kind of proud of it. Let's find out who we like for underdogs for today. Debundo, you're on the freaking Blue Jays. And no, it's not Alek Manoah pitching. It feels worse at times. Yusei Kikuchi is on the mound for the Toronto Blue Jays. And Seattle is sending Miller to the mound. Is that right? Miller's on the mound
Bryce
for
Miller.
Seattle. Okay, Tell me why you're backing Yusei Kikuchi, please.
I think we've given him a bad rep on this show. I think,
he's kind of deserved it a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, that's definitely true. We've definitely come out ahead, especially Cirillo. I feel like he's faded him every start for 3 years. We've definitely come out ahead. I think there's a reason, though, that the Blue Jays have consistently given this guy an opportunity to be in their starting rotation, even though at times it's looked really ugly. And it's because the stuff has always been good. And they know that if he could ever figure out the command, he could be a good major league starter. And I think there are signs that has happened this year. First pitch strike rate up this year relative to last year. Zone rate up this year relative to last year. 43.1%, still below league average, but better. And he's changed the pitch mix a little bit here to try to improve his command, and it's kind of worked. So, he's dropped off this cutter and hasn't really been using it, and he really couldn't command it. And he's, as a result, been throwing more curveballs, and he's been commanding that better. So, career low walk rate, pitching from ahead more often, trusting his stuff, not aiming as much and just kind of throwing in middle of the plate and letting his stuff do the movement. Is he still getting barreled sometimes? Yes, for sure. But the Blue Jays have a much better offense here. And the one thing I love about the Blue Jays offense, which has been consistently true for years, they hunt and crush fastballs. They're one of the better fastball hitting teams in the league. And that's pretty much all Bryce Miller has. Miller's repertoire is pretty limited. His fastball has lost juice in the last month. He's lost a couple ticks off of that fastball. The stuff plus is down. I think Miller's a bit of a vulnerable pitcher. So with the better offense here, even though Seattle has the bullpen advantage, I do like Kikuchi and the Jays at a dog price here.
And the Seattle, to your point, the Seattle offense has struggled.
Coming Kelenic now too, who broke his foot after he struck out. They called up Cade Marlowe, which in a sign of kind of the desperation of their situation. He has an 86 WRC plus in AAA, got the call up and started in left field last night. So they don't have a ton of organizational depth from hitting perspective. They have pitchers for years, but no real depth there. And as Kelenic, he's been up and down, but he, 112 WRC plus this year. He was a good hitter for the Mariners. So losing him, huge loss to that lineup.
BJ, like we talked about, Bryce Miller also fits what kind of candidate?
Stuff plus candidate.
Stuff plus candidate. That's right.
Great AAA stuff plus numbers.
He
Triple
did.
A.
And he look, his stuff, like his fastball was excellent when he came up at first, but he has lost a couple ticks. I think he's, getting a lot more usage than he's used to. And then, just not having that great secondaries developed comfortably yet has really kind of hurt him a little bit. I mean, I think he's gonna be good long-term, but I'm not really buying him now at this number.
Yeah, we're just messing with you, DeBundo, because you.
I know. BJ doesn't like stuff plus.
I am DeBundo's number one troll, Brendan. So
yeah,
I appreciate.
Got up DeBundo for a second, and then he mentioned watch DeBundo bring up the stuff plus the whole podcast.
Yep.
Underdog for you today, BJ. You like Kansas City visiting the Yankees.
Yep.
KC is down to plus 170. I know you had a number that you probably like more. It's come down. Why are you backing the Royals today?
Should Clark Schmidt and the Yankees offense, given their current state, really be a minus 200 favorite? I get it. The Royals are the worst offense and team in Major League Baseball right now, but Schmidt, he's a very average MLB starting pitcher. I mean, 4.17 expected ERA, 40th percentile or below in average exit velocity allowed and barrel rate allowed. And, this pitch combination is very interesting because if you look, it's a sweeper, cutter, sinker, and changeup. And if you look at the expected weighted on base average allowed on those four pitches, it's actually been pretty decent. But then when you dig into good old stuff plus, Brendan, only one of those pitches is a sweeper, has a rating over 100. Yeah. So the stuff isn't really that great. And it seems like he's not really getting away with it, but his expected metrics are telling him that he's just an average Major League starting pitcher. And I know it's been like beaten to death, but the Yankees, since Aaron Judge got hurt at the beginning of June, are bottom 5 in slugging percentage, weighted on base average, and every metric allowed. They've scored the second least runs to only the Royals, and they've literally scored 3 runs more than them over that whole time period. Alec Marsh is going to be on the mound for the Royals. He's been bad in a 3-start sample size, but if you dig into his his prospect description and all of his how he got here to the majors, it's kind of interesting because, after, the pandemic season, he really jumped on his velocity on his fastball. And, early on in the minors, he was hitting triple digits. And then he kind of went back to, the mid 90s, and his fastball doesn't have much movement. So it got kind of exposed. So he's been working and trying to utilize his changeup and his slider more early in the count, which, scouts have graded both those pitches as above average pitches. And it kind of helps him hide his below average fastball. And, he's working out those kinks, and he is somewhat of a decent starting pitcher coming up through the minors. So, it's very hard to get behind this Royals offense right now, which is really, really bad. But guess what? Over the last 2 weeks, they've put up better offensive numbers than the Yankees. So given where the Yankees offense is right now, given the fact that Clark Schmidt, who had a lot of prospects coming into the season, has been very, very average, I don't think that the Yankees should be this high of a price. I have the Yankees only projected at minus 148. So I like the Royals at probably minus, it's down to plus 170. I got it at plus 185. So I'd say 170 is probably that close to that cutoff. I'd like probably 175 a lot better, but either way, I do like the Royals tonight.
Okay. For all the reasons why you're not into the Royals offense, you can say the same thing about the Yankees.
Exactly.
Offensively. DeBundo, you got a thought?
Yeah, Clark Schmidt, a guy I generally like, but can't get lefties out. Still true. Been a true all year. And BJ mentioned it. I mean, the sweeper is his best pitch. It's his only really dominant pitch. And that is a split heavy pitch. If you're a righty and you're relying on the sweeper to get lefties out, not going to be very good. And this season, he has a 867 OPS allowed against lefties compared to 681 against righties. So that split gap is huge. And I have to think about what Royals lefty I want to back in like a home run prop or something, because he is certainly vulnerable.
You each have a couple more. I may have buried the lead. It's a Friday. There's a Cubs game. They're home, and they're playing at 2:20 Eastern time this afternoon. It's on Apple TV too. So national audience at Wrigley Field today. They welcome in the St. Louis Cardinals. It's a great old school rivalry matchup. You both have a play on this game. DeBundo, if you follow him, he really plays this all the time. He's going to play the Cubs run line. BJ's got a different angle, but let's touch on this game quickly. And then I know you each have one more bet to get in. DeBundo, you can go first. Cubs, going. It's Jack Flaherty on the mound for St. Louis, Justin Steele for Chicago.
Yeah, so it's important to know that this is not an official system play on the Cubs 0.5 because there are a few conditions. They have to be at home on Friday at 2:20. The wind has to be blowing out and it needs to be warm. We have all of those conditions except for the wind, which is blowing in like 5 to 7 miles an hour today. So not an official Cubs 0.5 play. There have been other games back in like April and May where I was not betting it because it was cold or the weather wasn't right. It's one of my few baseball systems. We are 2-0 on the official system plays this year, including a beatdown of Cal Quantrill a couple weeks ago. But I do like the Cubs, and I'm going to bet the 0.5 anyway. We've beat Justin Steele to death on this show and talked about how great he is and the seam shifted weight king that he is and how much he induces weak contact and beats his projections. He had a weird start against Boston where the defense kind of let him down a little bit, a couple of errors, and then Yoshida hit that grand slam. So there was a lot of bloops. Like it was a lot of, that's the kind of thing that can happen to a pitcher when you allow more contact instead of strikeouts and you have one of those starts. But I don't really downgrade Steele at all off that. I still consider him to be an excellent pitcher. And the Cubs lineup is generally pretty patient. And so, Flaherty his command has improved, but he still is capable of the blow up with the walks and the issues there. So I do like the Cubs minus 1.5 plus 160, pretty juicy. But again, not an official system play, but one I am going to play this afternoon just because I love Justin Steele so much.
Riding that fence pretty hard, huh?
Well, no, I am betting the game. I'm just saying that if, the system is the system.
Yeah, he's that's exactly
my
it.
system is not triggered, but I'm still betting it.
So the record to the system will not be affected, but DeBundo's overall record and his
my bankroll
reputation will be
the winner or loss of this bet. Yes, that's fair. Which is really the bottom line and all that matters.
Basically what he's saying is I bet it, but it shouldn't count against my record.
No, it doesn't count.
The system record. There's a different thing.
Yeah, system different.
BJ,
he's putting the system ahead of
a
himself.
Systems guy. I only have two systems. I was explaining this pre-show. I got the Cubs 0.5 system, and I got the Phillies win system, and everything else. I'm not much of a trends guy. So those are my systems.
Right. Let's pause the system
way too many times. System.
BJ, why are you going to play first five? Justin Steele, bounce back spot?
Yeah, I believe the Cubs have a significant starting pitching edge. Jack Flaherty, he is what he is at this point. He's never going to be what he was in 2019. His control sucks. He's got a 4.65 walk per 9 rate, which his expected ERA is now up around 5. And then if you dig into the stuff plus, he's 93. He's a below average starting pitcher now. So Justin Steele, who I think a couple weeks ago I gave out as a Cy Young candidate, and then he had 2 terrible starts. So good on me on that one. He, again, like Anthony said, he's so good at inducing weak contact. So I think it's a really big edge here for the Cubs, especially being at home. So I like them for the first 5 innings.
Okay, quickly, before we go, 15 seconds each on this so we can get the heck out of here. DeBundo, you like the Brewers total today, and then DeBundo, BJ's on. I confuse you two sometimes. Wonder Goal, it must be that. DeBundo likes the Brewers team total. BJ has a small underdog he'd like to play. DeBundo, why are the Brewers in a good spot to maybe score some runs today?
Yeah, a ton of bullpen usage for Atlanta the last couple of days. They played that wild game in Arizona a couple of days ago, and they've used their bullpen a ton. I think Mike Soroka's pretty much done unless he finds this stuff. Strikeout rates, hard contact rates, all really concerning. xERA over 5, got away with it against Cleveland, but real concerned about him. So Milwaukee team total, don't love Milwaukee's pitching situation with Peralta either, but I like the team total, isolating Soroka, fading him.
Okay, that game's on ESPN Plus this evening. And BJ, who's the short dog you like before we go?
Yeah, I like the Guardians plus 105 against Anthony's Phillies. Gavin Williams is somebody who had great stuff plus and AAA numbers coming up to the majors. He's been average through his first few starts. He's going against Ranger Suarez, who, the Guardians are, this was evident last year, but they have one of the lowest strikeout rates in Major League Baseball. So they're very, very difficult to get out. And for Ranger Suarez, who's a 3.3 walk per 9 rate pitcher, I think the Guardians could get after him. So I think it's a decent price on Gavin Williams, who projects to be fairly good for the Guardians going forward.
And that game's in Cleveland, so we don't need wind analysis from DeBundo.
Exactly.
It's Bank Park. Gentlemen, great work. DeBundo, BJ, can find him in the Action Network app. Our other baseball analysts are in there as well. If there was a game we didn't touch on with these big slates, we can't promise we hit on every game. We want to bet. We want to talk about the stuff that these guys want to bet on. So anything else that you might need, go to the Action app. and find write-ups, analysis, and other items. For both of these guys, Brendan Glasheen signing off. Payoff Pitch, presented by BetMGM. We are back on Monday. Please leave a subscription and that 5-star rating, and we will talk to you again next week. Have a great weekend.